Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Low on the Go. Today it's a beautiful fall day. It's very chilly out, but like in a nice way. The sun is shining and it's relatively early. It's 8:30 and I'm chipper. Why am I so chipper? I don't know, but I'm in a good mood today and I feel inspired to do something very fall related. I'm thinking maybe bake an apple pie. I'm here to show you how to make an amazing apple pie. Thanksgiving is coming up and it's just, a great thing to have on your Thanksgiving dinner table. I want to make it my goal in this video to actually teach you how to make an apple pie. And I know a lot of people are very nervous and can be kind of hesitant when it comes to making pastry, and so I just have a few tips and tricks up my sleeves that I feel can really alleviate that fear and have a lot of fun. Baking apple pie is a lot of fun. It is vegan, of course, so don't let that, deter you from making this apple pie. I'm off to the grocery store currently, and I'm gonna go see if we can pick up some beautiful apples. Ideally, we want Honeycrisp apples because they make the best. If not, maybe Cortland apples. So we'll go and see what they have. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Leave any comments. I always love to hear from you guys. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. See you at the grocery store. Apple situation wasn't that great. I was kind of weirdly just disappointed with how crap it was. So I was able to get 3 Honeycrisp apples, which were in okay condition. And then I'm going to supplement with green Granny Smith apples. And they're a really good apple to substitute because they're crispy, they're sour, they're tart. They're not the most ideal apple for eating, but they're really good to bake. I'm back from the grocery store and I wanted to share some fun little things that I bought. I bought these cute little orange pumpkins that I want to use to decorate my table, and I just thought, why not kick off the fall season with a beautiful decorated dinner table just, to spread some cheer. And I got these like baby little corns. I love them, or I think they're called ornamental corn. Duh. And I remembered I had some fake foliage. Let's get to work. The first thing that we are gonna wanna do is make our pie crust. I use this recipe. It's the Emerald Lagasse Sweet Pie Crust. It's my absolute favorite and it's really, really simple. Obviously it's easy to veganize because you can just use vegan butter. It only makes 1 pie crust, so we're gonna have to double it so we can get 2 pie crusts. So you've got your bottom and your top. And the reason why it's the first thing you do is because you need your pastry to rest before you roll it out. So let's get to making our pie crust. Let's start measuring out the ingredients, and it's just going to be 2.5 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. I'll add 2 tablespoons of sugar and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now, you're probably wondering, where's the butter and the shortening? The key to pastry is to have all your ingredients cold. My mom told me when I was a little girl, when she was trying to teach me how to make pastry, she says,
you have to be boss. Tell that pastry you're not afraid.
When you start handling your pastry with fear, you sweat. And that sweat from your hands will actually moisten your pastry. Now we need to measure out the shortening. So this is where you're going to stop. Now that you've added your 2 fats to the flour mixture, you're not going to cut the fat into the flour. You're going to actually put it in your freezer for a few minutes, like 10 minutes is fine, just so that everything gets nice and chilled before you manhandle it with your hands. And while that mixture chills, you You can then create your ice water that you're going to add. And then I add actually ice cubes. I can get them out. And so now I'm going to put this into the freezer as well to get nice and chilled. Okay, so everything is nice and chilled. That was just 10 minutes. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your fork and you're going to cut the butter and the shortening into the flour. And again, try not to get your hands into this. So once your butter and flour mixture look like coarse sand, you have gotten to the right place. Now you're going to drizzle in your water. I know I have already measured out the water in advance, but if by any chance those ice cubes have melted, I don't want to assume that it's still 6 tablespoons. And if you feel it needs a little bit more, just put in like droplets. But this is where your hands come into play. Now we're at a point where we can start folding it in, kind of kneading it just a little bit, maybe 10, 12 kneads to really bring it together. So I leave it in the bowl and I just kind of form it into a disc. I just pulled a chest muscle doing that. That hurt a little bit. So as you can see, it all came together. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half, form it into 2 discs, and it's going to go into the fridge. Into the fridge for a few hours or into the freezer for an hour. You really want this to get nice and chilled and hard. It's easier to work with hard, cold pastry. Don't be discouraged if it seems like it's crumbling. That's a good sign that it means you've incorporated all the ingredients correctly. If it's really crumbling, like it's literally not staying together, it means you did not add enough water. This is what you're going for.
Pastry hoops.
So while your pastry is in the fridge or freezer to chill, to firm up, it's time to work on the beautiful apples. You're gonna peel your apples, and I like to slice them. And now we're going to flavor them. What I love so much about my recipe is it's just simple. It tastes like apple and cinnamon, nothing else. So we're going to add white sugar, cinnamon, a pinch of salt, and flour. So let's mix it before we add the flour. And what I like to do is taste it. And now I'm going to add the flour. You'll notice once you add your flour to your apples, they're going to immediately start thickening that liquid, that juice that the apples have released because of the sugar. Okay, so now you can set that aside. It's done. See, that was quick. It took me like 10 minutes. But I am a professional. So our pastry's ready. It's been an hour and it's nice and hard. Give it a few kneads just so that you can get the warmth of your hands to just make it kind of a bit better to roll. You still want it to have a chill, but you obviously do not want it room temperature. And then shape it back into a disc. Get your flour, put it onto your rolling surface. This is where I think most people start to get really nervous about making a pie. the rolling of the dough. The most important thing you have to understand about pastry is, number one, it needs to chill to rest. That way it can actually roll and spread evenly. And then what's also really important is to have a lot of flour and you're constantly moving the dough while you're rolling it. Start from the center, roll it, turn it, roll it again. You want to make sure that there's going to be a lot of flour underneath. Don't worry about,
oh no, there's a lot of flour underneath. What's it gonna do?
I also have a trick for that. Add more flour to the top because you don't want it to stick to the rolling pin. So when you start to see this happen, you know, maybe the edges look like they're starting to break, you can just kind of push it back into place. But keep in mind that a lot of these edges are either going to be cut off or turned under to not be seen. The most important thing is to make sure it's evenly rolled and big enough to fill your pie plate. The best way to do that is to put your plate on top and see if it comes out wide enough to go over the tops. Just take your nifty brush, very carefully flip it over, like so. You already have it in half. You carefully lift it up, put it in the middle of your plate, and fold back over. It's just push your pie nice down so that it gets into all the nice crevices of the plate. Don't worry too much about the excess pastry over the sides. We're going to deal with that in a minute. So give the apples a quick little stir and pour them in. Wow, doesn't that just look fantastic? And to really bring it up a notch, we're going to add little dollops of vegan butter on top of the apples. And what that does is it really gives the apple sauce velvety and just a little bit more exciting and just richer in flavor, richer in texture. Dollop here, a dollop there. Maybe like a good 4 to 5 dollops. Okay, I did 6. All right, everything looks great. So same thing, just fold your crust in half. So we're going to seal the pie with a little bit of an almond milk wash. This way the top layer of pastry sticks to the bottom layer, and there you go. So now everything is sealed. So now what you can do is you can kind of figure out how much of the remaining pastry you want to create your crust. I love crust, so I'm the kind of person that keeps on quite a bit, but if you are not into that, that's okay. Remove as much or as little as your heart desires. We are going to turn under. Do not turn your pastry over, because when it bubbles, the bubbles of the juice will bubble on top. Really get it in there, make it nice and snug. And if there's parts where you're like, ooh, that still feels really thick, cut away. I like to crimp the sides, so I take my 2 fingers like so, and I take my index finger and I push it together. Scraps from the pastry from your pie, I just literally rolled it out, and I have these really cute mini leaf cookie cutters that I like to use for creating, little designs on top of my pie. It's really important that you add a vent onto your pie, so cut to, 2 little holes, and this will help with the color of your pie. It's gonna get like a really nice golden brown. And then you just take your cute leaves and your acorns and, you know, you add them on top. And the last step is to, again, grab your wash and just put it on top of the leaves so that they too can get a nice caramelization color going on. And I lied, this actually isn't the last step. The last step is our decorative crystalled sugar. Apple pie that's ready to go into the oven. I have the oven preheated at 415 degrees Fahrenheit, and my pastry has already been chilling, so it is nice and cold. If by any chance your pastry and your pie are not chilled, put it back in the fridge for honestly like a good 30 minutes. You really want to get it nice and chilled because cold pastry in a hot oven is how you achieve your pie to keep its shape. And it only cooks for about 15-20 minutes just so that it really keeps the pastry intact. And then once I can see that a little bit of coloring is happening, then I turn the oven down to 375 and I cook it till done. Pies can take up to about an hour, sometimes a little bit more depending on how much apple filling you have, but roughly you're looking at a minimum of 1 hour. We now just wait. I'm gonna clean up and let the house fill with apple pie smells. Yeah. So Ruben and I decided to take a walk while the pie cools because, you know, it's really important that that pie cools fully before you eat it. So right now we're just down at the beaches taking a nice walk. It's a bit chillier because obviously it looks like the sun has gone and we're by the water. You're obviously colder by the water. But yeah, it's just nice to see the colors of the foliage and just, you know, get some fresh air. I really want to try to enjoy this fall as much as possible.
Yes.
Look at that beautiful apple pie. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. And it's still a little warm from the oven. This is like the perfect fall dessert for me. You know it's good when Ruben doesn't talk. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it's inspired you and given you some help in the pastry department and just inspired you to cook something that you love for this season, like apple pie.
I really recommend it.
Yes, and it's not difficult. It's really fun, it's really easy, and take in consideration some of the little tips that I gave you and you will have a successful, delicious, perfect vegan apple pie. You wouldn't even know this is vegan. Love you all guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye!